Peterborough is located in the eastern part of England, about 130 kilometres from the part of London and 50 from the north of Cambridge. Its location is important for the access to the north and to the south of the country, and to the west as well as the east. Peterborough has been known for years only for its bricks industry, which was particularly famous thanks to the richness of clay of its ground, and for the Perkins gas oil engine factory, created by Frank Perkins in 1932. The history of Peterborough is ancient. It was deeply inspired by the ancient Roman civilization. The cathedral is located in the centre of Peterborough and represents the heart of its cultural life. It was dedicated to St. Peter, St. Paul and St. Andrew and certified in 1238. Its peculiarity is the triple facade with the statue of the three above-mentioned saints. Inside the cathedral there are two buried queens, Queen Catherine of Aragon, the first wife of Henry VIII, and Queen Mary Stuart, whose body was later moved to Westminster Abbey in London. Over a little bridge along the River Nen, the same river that flowing through the Cambridgeshire country runs through Peterborough too. Another historical essential role for the economic development of Peterborough has been done by bricks masoners since the end of the 19th century until our days. Also, Italians were here to help developing this primary industry. Since the 1970s, the population has widely increased, reaching a number of 150,000 citizens. The town has also planned a high growth for the next 15 years. Peterborough is actually one of the towns which has the fastest growth rate of the eastern England. The economy is totally balanced with a good mixture of manufacturing, industries and services, especially as regarding the finance and policy branch. The Development Corporation is currently focusing its attention on these fields by creating new companies in these fields. The percentage of employment is high, even if from the economic perspective the farming industries and the food processing are higher than the actual sums. The Italian immigration to Peterborough began in 1951 and continued until the end of the 1960s. Taking the socio-linguistic situation in Italy in those years into consideration, we can assume that the hundreds of thousands who went to Peterborough spoke one of the southern dialect as their first language and Italian as their second language. According to the 2001 census, 2 in 7 of 150,000 inhabitants are Italian origin. Therefore, today Peterborough has the largest Italian community in the United Kingdom. The main reason why these people came to Britain was obviously not for the weather, but to escape poverty and to hope to make a decent living for themselves and for their families. As a result, they seized the opportunity to work in Britain industry. But immigration is never a static process, given that extended families, relatives and friends tend to become involved in what we could call a chain of reaction. The immigration established a connection with the new environment, travelling back and forth between Italy and Britain, and often some also ended up moving to a new land. This has been the case for generations of Italians who have immigrated to Britain from the 19th century to the present day. The Italian immigration can be divided into two important phases. A first stage at the turn of the 19th century, when a large number of men began to arrive in the country, and following in the years immediately after the Second World War, when real mass immigration began. There is one phase involving a large group of writers, artists and musicians who moved from Italy to settle in the United Kingdom, and another whose starting point is found around 1820s and 1830s, when there is a flux of poor peasant population. On this second group, some were from Tuscany, Emilia-Romagna, and while others were from the Ciociara countryside, just north of the region of Naples. Before leaving Italy, it was obligatory for immigrants to have a contract with a patron in Britain, and this master would be in complete control of the immigrants regarding their work, food and accommodation for the first 2 or 3 years. Once that time had passed, however, and their contractual obligation had been served out, they were free to work for themselves. They were able to continue earning money as organ grinds if they wished to, or they could take up other jobs for their choices. During the 19th, Italian immigrated towards and westwards from London, either settling in urban centres or small towns in 1902. However, when the passage of the Aliens Act, the British government had to deal with very large waves of immigration from Italy and as a result had to introduce important regulations. During the early 1950s, the first Italian colony of Peterborough settled in the area around Alex Road and Middle Road. The Italian immigrants and their families found lodgings in a hotel around the brick field and lived there for the first few years after their arrival. By 1958, more than half of the 5,000 Italians in the area were still living in condition of poverty and the multi-occupation of their houses. By the late 1950s, however, the hard-working Italians had saved money to buy their own property, especially in the area of Queen's Park, where the terrace houses were situated. By continuing to work tirelessly and never wasting their hard-earned money, they began to settle the final flourish. The London Brickyard Company came to dominate British brick production for many of the 20th century. It was initially a combination of two businesses which differed from the expired and financial capital of one of the land already owned and worked by the other. They emerged from the Peterborough and Bedford area and at the same Oxford clay natural resource, and throughout production the company maintained interest in this area. However, Bedfordshire remains the base of product and administration.